All right, the mainstream media, in many cases, going crazy over staff changes at the West Wing, as new reports suggest that Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen and John Kelly, as chief of staff, could be on their way out. But when you take a look at the second years of the last 4 administrations, President Trump has made the same number of cabinet changes as President Clinton, and only 2 more than President Obama. So is the media overhyping the situation, or we just love the palace intrigue? Let's ask presidential historian Doug Wead. Doug, is the president getting too much scrutiny in this area?
Hi, Brian. Yeah, I remember when I went to work on White House senior staff back in 1989, before you were born. And at the time, they told me the average length of stay on White House senior staff was 1.5 years. Reagan had 4 chiefs of staff. So did Bill Clinton. Barack Obama had 5. George W. Bush had 5 secretaries of the Treasury. And Jimmy Carter, who was only in office for 4 years, had 6 acting secretaries of state. This is very common. You change the staff depending on what the new things need to be accomplished in the White House, which is constantly changing.
It's brought up that of the 8 that have left, 6 cabinet officials, 6 have resigned, but 2 were promoted, Kelly and Pompeo. They were just moved around, one from CIA to Secretary of State, and Kelly was Homeland and now is Chief of Staff. It doesn't show chaos, but to tell you the truth, Doug, it's logical to think a businessman who's never had political office, who wasn't a Washington insider, would have to rotate people out in order to get the people he wanted. He had to figure out who likes him and who can do the job. And sadly, there was a big difference.
That's absolutely right. And make no mistake, it's not necessarily that the person leaving did a bad job at all. It's because there's new things he wants to accomplish and new people with skills who have them to do. I will say this, Melania Trump, very healthy, her comments and speaking up for herself. You may know all about the world and be the smartest person on earth about the world. If you're not smart enough to figure out you need to treat the president's wife and her staff, the president's daughter and son-in-law and their staff with respect, you're not smart enough to work in the White House. So I was very impressed with Melania Trump.
She pushed out John Bolton's deputy because of the way she treated her staff on the Africa trip and the way she's treated others. Says she's not worthy of the White House. The next day she's gone. And for those people who don't think Melania has the president's back, you have never been around those 2. This is really about the president and getting loyalty around him. And she's got great instincts. Good point, Doug. Appreciate your perspective.
Thanks, Brian.
All right, coming up straight ahead.